You may already have learnt by now that I was one of the 2 poker advisors on the old James Bond movie Casino Royale. 9 BAFTA nominations, including one for Daniel himself for Best Actor. Not one for Best Poker, you notice, but you just do the best job that you can, don't you? It's important not to be bitter about these things. I don't know whether you play poker or not, but you might be surprised to learn that 50 million Americans claim to play poker on at least a monthly basis. And that figure is changing all the time, of course. More and more women getting into the game, which I think is broadly a good thing. Although internet poker getting more and more younger people getting into the game. And I'm okay with this, but it's slippery slope I worry about, folks. How long before we see that? He's having a good time. Does that make it right, I ask you? When I started playing poker in the summer of '99, everyone had one question they wanted me to answer, and that was, let's see your poker face. And actually, it's quite hard to do a face on request. And as we see here, poker face is much less important than people think because you can actually do quite a lot to cover it up. This is Lane Flack, a great player who made an entire brand out of the hooded top and the shades. That's going too far, all right? No one wants to see that. What these photos actually illustrate, hopefully, is that poker is much less a game about body language, although that is a part of it, than it is about decisions and decision making. In fact, an economist's definition of a decision is the allocation of scarce resources under conditions of uncertainty. And what else is a poker player doing other than allocating his or her scarce resources under conditions of uncertainty? Now, you might say a poker player is making many decisions a day, but so is someone in business, and you'd be absolutely right. Indeed, making decisions is fundamental to our success as a species and certainly as organisations. So given that, you'd be forgiven for asking why we're not actually better at it. Most of us, and I include myself, are terrified of dying in a plane crash. And yet the most dangerous part of any flight is the car journey to the airport. We're spending billions of pounds at the moment to try and combat the threat of terrorism, and yet we are nearly 1,000 times more likely to die of stroke. Here's a question. Why do you think it is that we feel most comfortable when buying the second most expensive bottle of wine? Or, in business terms, going with the second most expensive supplier? Why, deep down, are we convinced we're going to win in a lottery? Or equally convinced that our latest investment scheme is as likely to succeed? Why is it that when we're stuck in traffic, we will do anything before we quite simply reverse and go the way that we've come, thus acknowledging we've made a mistake, let alone, fellas, look at a map? Arnold Schwarzenegger once said, money doesn't make you happy. He said, I've got $50 million in the bank, I'm no happier than when I had 48 million. And what's interesting about that is I bet he was pretty happy with his first 5 million, but you get to a point in life where money sort of loses its meaning. And that quotation does highlight the rational, but sometimes irrational way that we approach this thing called money. Decision-making in poker business and life is my speech which reveals these irrationalities, where I go through the 10 most common decision-making mistakes, and as importantly, highlight the 4 simple rules of thumb to overcome them. We make hundreds, if not thousands of decisions every single day. And I certainly don't claim that any more of mine than yours are rational. However, decision-making in poker business and life is my entertaining, educational and thought-provoking attempt to make us all that bit better at this vital process.